Gonky,
Yes, sir.
you can actually buy a YAK-52.
Yeah, this is not a very
controller.com.
Yeah,
I know where there are two.
It's
see
locally.
I had to look. I'm like, a YAK-52. What is that? And then
So you know, I guess we're in. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Now we're in 100-year-old tactics because they've taken a YAK-52. So this is the external video. We do have internal video as well. This is all from Twitter, from someone who living in Ukraine. But what is that a parachute, Gonky?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. I mean,
does the drone pop up like, does it have like the ballistic chute like the BRS?
It must. I mean, I'm surprised it's like bright hunter orange. Here I am, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know if have they already shot it? Is that why the chute's out?
Oh yeah, this thing's already. But look, he's got his flaps down. I mean, what better way with slow speed? I think you can hear it here.
No, dude, that's not coming from the airplane.
What is shooting?
I mean, it sounds like somebody shooting on the street
at the airplane. Yeah. Well, here's the. I mean, you can hear the. So this thing's already dead. Wow. And then, yeah, now they're saying we need Super Tucano. I don't think there's any more videos.
Yeah.
Gonky, what do you think about that, man?
I think it's smarter to use a YAK-52 than like an F-22 and like 2 9Xs. Yeah, I kind of like you're saying. I mean, I think it's great, actually. I mean, it worked, right? They got it. I mean, what do you think, man? I mean, it's not like the YAK-52 is 5th gen with all the Gucci stuff, but at the end of the day,
I mean, cost per hour, you and I can afford it. So it was a Russian drone, the Orlan 10, over Odessa, is what the Ukrainian media has reported. And according to some sources, they have not been retrofitted with wing or fuselage mounted machine guns due to extensive and technically challenging modifications required to integrate such weaponry into the airframe. So they're basically saying some dude with a rifle.
Right. It wasn't the pilot that was shooting, right?
No, it's the backseater. It's the guy in the back. Yeah. Which is straight out of, World War II, World War I. Really cool. I mean, it's a 2-seat, single engine, all metal monoplane with a low wing configuration. Obviously, this would be ideally suited because you can go slow. I mean,
yeah,
you need to do.
Well, I mean, these drones are. I mean, we kind of had a lengthy conversation today about drones, but these things are.
Oh yeah.
These things are kind of a new, changing the landscape of aerial warfare, and the idea of using really expensive weapons against them doesn't always make sense when really it just takes some sort of blunt force trauma to take them out, right? I mean, I think using the Yak is a good idea. I wouldn't be surprised if that's their going in game plan now. It's like, hey, listen, if we pick these things out, with at whatever range, we're just going to launch these little, the Yak or an airplane like a Yak with a machine gun, right? It's like you said, it's World War II style, but I think it's effective, man. I mean, how hard would it be to shoot down a drone cruising at 50 knots and an F-16 that's 20 feet long?
Oh, dude. I mean, that would be so. That's one of the things we've talked about before, the drone threat in general. And every time we see one of these scenarios, we learn something because it's almost like it's a giant operational test field because it's the first place we've seen widely proliferated drone usage for like FPV drones and drones dropping grenades in the tanks and using it for precision kills, using it for other things. And so you have this where now we have counter drone. Now we're starting to talk, how do we do counter drone? And one of the things we've realized in talking to very smart people is a drone may not have some of the limitations other aircraft have. Like you can jam GPS. Well, it may have its own internal system where it's reading terrain, and it's smart enough. It's got an INS, or inertial navigation system. Like, it doesn't necessarily need GPS, so you can't jam that. You can't jam the signal because it may not need a signal because it's autonomous. As AI gets better, I've talked about before. I've got a Skydio drone that visually recognizes things. It recognizes obstacles, and it doesn't need any input from me. It just does, and it'll follow a route. It'll do all this stuff. So then how do you kill it? Well, we see here where sometimes, you just go to the simplest thing, and they put a YAK-52 out there with a guy with a rifle, and they said, go get it. Now, is that the best solution? Maybe. I mean, it works here. My issue is always going to be find F2T2, right? Find, fix, target, track. Finding and tracking these little drones is hard to do. It's hard to distinguish that. So it's a huge threat that, as we see this stuff on the battlefield continue, I think we'll see more and more creative ways to address it. And I like this, but what I'm curious, I'd love to see the entire engagement, because we're only really seeing the end. I would like to see the entire engagement. Number one, how long did it take them to do it, right? How long from the time that they said, hey, we've got a drone, we need you to shoot it down. Okay, find the drone, get the canopy back, start popping off rounds. Like, how many rounds did it take them to do this, right? How long was that cycle from the time we see the video from the alert scramble? And now can we scale that? Because the biggest thing with drones is airspace saturation. That's a very scary, real possibility. And it's hard to track them, man. I mean, you can't find the source, then what are you going to do?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, what if there would have been, a dozen of those drones? I mean, what are they going to do? Launch? I mean, you're going to have like barrels out both sides of the yak, just
well, well, I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, so
right.
let's extrapolate this. You got a Seawoods, and mounted on the back of something, and it's just spinning around R2D2 style, taking them out.
Yeah, with this particular engagement, one thing that's pretty eye-opening to me is an airplane like the Yak can really anchor with this thing, right? I mean, if you're in a fast jet, it's missed it. Missed it. And you might maybe lose sight of it. You got to turn the corner, come back, get regains, right? So, I mean, like you said, hey, he's got the flaps down. So, I mean, he can just once he finds it, he can just anchor until it's done, which is something you can't say about fast jet.
And that's a great point too, in that I had a comment the other day on the video we talked about drones, and they're like, oh, when we did the Israeli thing, and they said, oh, hard to do, 100, I think he was using metric, so he's probably European, 100-kilometer drone, so hard to kill. And it's like, I think people have this misconception, because he actually responded. He said, yeah, well, I thought because it's slow, it would be easier. And it's like, dude, 180 out. The slower targets are, when you're in a fast jet, are typically more difficult. And then that brings up the argument, the Army kind of runs this in some ways. What about an Apache?
Helicopter.
What doctrinally an Apache, or, we've had Daniel, when Daniel was on here, he was not talking about the Apache. He was talking about customs. Remember when he was on here talking about the intercept they did, where the F-16 said, no, we're not going to go kinetic, and the customs guys rolled up next to him? Well, that then becomes the smarter answer, right? Because a guy in the back of a Black Hawk with a Scar 17 or a minigun, a door-mounted minigun, now they can take it out, because that Black Hawk could go. It can do 140, 50 knots, or it can do 50 knots. It doesn't need to anchor like that.
Yeah. And in that case, there would have been a lot less collateral damage, right? I mean, it's just, interceptors are built to intercept other airplanes, really, or cruise missiles. It's, when you're talking about these drones, it's a whole nother,
right there.
Yeah. A whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel, you did. And that was exactly what we're talking about, if it makes it past all the other steps, what are you going to do? And it's like,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, a guy with a rifle might be might be it, but the scary thing, man, is, this drone stuff is we're still at the very beginning of this. As
mhm.
these things get smarter, I mean, can the counter be developed and implemented fast enough? Do we have, in the US, like, how are we going to protect ourselves? Like, this is happening overseas, obviously, but we talked, um, about drones and
Drone
how,
swarms. Yeah,
yeah,
we talked
drone
about
swarms.
drone swarms at Langley and other places
Right.
where it was like, who did it and
Yeah. I
what
mean,
happens?
do you just, do you give every, T-bear with an air tractor a pistol and say, have at it, or
He says he would be yes. Yeah.
uh,
T-Bear would be like, absolutely. Well,
yeah, well, yeah, you know what, I would be right there with him. But realistically, how do we defend this, and who defends it? Like,
Whose job?
whose job is it, right? I mean, is it, yeah, the Navy, when you're deployed, it's a little easier, right? It's the Navy
Yeah.
because there's nobody out there in the sea space. But like when you're talking about here domestically, who does that? And it's kind of a gray area, man. It's not pretty when if you really start thinking about the possibilities.
Well, we've talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when we were talking about the Houthi drones, what was killing them the most? It was the ships, right? The ships were the ones.
Well, that's because they were attacking.
Right.
Excuse me,
But
they were.
my point is, what I'm surprised, because we've seen the helicopters attack the Houthi boats, right?
Mhm.
We've seen those in action. I'm surprised we have not seen, the Seahawks, the
Attacking the drones.
attacking the drones, right? Because they're relatively similar speeds and doing that, and it's not you don't need the Hornet to go and VID and all that stuff. So
I think the reason there, man, is, we used to train to the cruise missile threat, which was
yeah,
low level, whatnot. And I think the reason why, like, your Hornets are the ones that are getting the drone kills out there is because, day one, when this first kicked off, it's like, well, you guys practice this stuff, right?
right.
Not exactly like, we practiced against real, real,
No,
real cruise
right.
missile threats. That wasn't me, dude. I don't know what just happened.
I don't know why that keeps happening, but
Oh,
it's just okay.
but like,
I didn't do it.
but the helicopter squadron on the boat, their primary mission was search and rescue and replenishment at
Mhm.
sea, right? So they weren't, they really didn't have any training or time to train for. I'm not saying they can't do it. It's just like, given day one, like, holy cow, these things are coming. You launch the
Right.
Hornets, arm the Sea Whiz, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I think that it's our responsibility to keep bringing light to this because, and by our I mean everybody. It's everybody's responsibility to recognize this threat for what it is and continue to go, hey, we need answers for it because we don't want to have another thing where the attack happens and we go, well, nobody ever thought of that.
Yeah,
Like,
a hundred
like
hundred
it's a
percent.
threat.
Yeah, you can have the most awesome weapons available, but if you're able to, disrupt one of the chain of events that's required to launch that airplane, like take out the maintenance, take out the pilot, take out the runway, whatever, you've essentially neutralized that threat. So, being open to attack without any kind of defense is a scary spot to be in.
Yeah.